He didn't change the name to the Gulf of Trump, right? As Fizz also said. It's correct. It's like he changed it to Gulf of America. It's not like that crazy of a demand in general. And also it's basically just on Google Maps, which is an American, it's an American company. It's useless, it's petty, and also simultaneously, in a weird way, it's not like the worst thing. Do you know what I mean? Because like I said, this is the continent. This is the North American continent, and therefore it's valid to say it's the Gulf of America. So it's one of those weird things that Trump did where I just don't care about it at all. And I don't think it's all that significant. I think ultimately the other stuff that he's doing is way worse. You shut up right now, law. It's not the Gulf of the United States of America. It's the Gulf of America. This must be so cool if you're a idiot. Yeah, no, this is the correct take as well. It's just like, it just is not like, I think a part of the reason why Republicans really like this is because they're stupid and they think this matters. They think this is like a massively consequential thing. Like it shows American dominance, right? It's just a thing. It's not that significant. And it makes no sense to hype this up as though this is the best thing that's ever happened. They've done it. Gulf of America. Like Pog, I'm pogging right now. This is so sick. In the Donald Trump is destroying this country paradigm, if I were to do a tier list of all the awful things that he's done, this doesn't even make the first 50. Do you see what I'm saying? Like this does not crack the top 50 at all. Especially because if this was done in collaboration with like Mexico as well, and it wasn't Trump doing it, and it was like, hey, in order to showcase our friendship, like, and the fact that we are on the same continent and we are incredibly important allies, like we are now switching the name of the Gulf of Mexico in unison with the Mexican government to the Gulf of the Americas, something like that. Like most people would go, okay, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like in the past 2 weeks, it's about to be his first month in, Donald Trump has done so much awful so much that it makes no sense to spend any time on this. Hassan, you're trying to explain change to a chat that had a meltdown when you change mic cover colors. Fair, true. But yeah, this is all aesthetics. Why would it be the Americas when it's just North America? Okay, Gulf of America is actually a decent naming convention for it as well, for the record. But again, it's silly stuff. It's low motion. He's an old white guy. Like most old white guys, he loves maps. I think he sees changing the map in as many ways as possible as the lasting legacy he will have. Obviously, there are other reasons for Canada, Greenland, and Panama, but I think the hubris is another factor. Yeah, it's just like a silly thing. It's low motion. It's silly. It's perfect for Donald Trump. It's perfect red meat for his base that they can just like add on to all of the amazing things that our glorious president is doing. It's like, fix the goddamn egg prices, man. Okay. What happened to tackling inflation, you dingus? That's what you ran on. What happened? Instead, it's business as usual. And the irony, of course, is that nothing is different, even with his like handling of Ukraine, for example. Like when he talks about Ukraine, this is a big point of contention now. He just like openly is saying, we want $500 billion worth of your minerals. Okay. That in and of itself is literally, and I cannot stress this enough, identical to the ways in which we have interest in Ukraine from the jump. It's just openly stating that reality. That's the only difference between Donald Trump, is just that he says the quiet part out loud. Okay. That's it. Just like the Biden administration also quietly was trying to do a mass relocation initiative for all the Palestinians, and the Egyptian government said no. The Jordanian government said no. They all basically said, no, that's a ridiculous thing. We're not going to do mass ethnic displacement in the Gaza Strip. Donald Trump was like, no, you have to do it. That's it. It's not quiet, it's just loud, but the policies don't actually change. To be fair, Mexico's an indigenous name. America is a colonizer name. I don't really care though. What's really crazy is how quickly certain cores have caved, like TikTok. Yeah, no, there is no resistance whatsoever to this iteration of Trump. That much is a certainty. If anything, I think every institution is basically telling you that reality over and over again. And there is seemingly no counter to this kind of nonsense anyway. The craziest part of me about him saying this stuff out loud is how he was impeached over doing what is in essence the same type of quid pro quo with Ukraine. No, there's a difference between the initial impeachment for his quid pro quo with Ukraine. That was for his own personal That was directly to over the person that he was running against, right? He wanted dirt. He was like, there are Congress approved weapons that are supposed to be transferred to you. I'm going to do something that is unconstitutional and stop those weapons from going to you unless you give me some blackmail. If you give me some blackmail, I'll continue those weapons transfers. But if you give me some blackmail on Joe Biden, I will, I will continue the weapons transfers flowing into Ukraine. That was for something that is like deliberately his own personal. That was something that he did specifically for his own personal gain. It was a very selfish thing that he was doing. So that's a little bit different than when he says, Ukraine, if you have a lot of rare earth minerals, I want it. We'll keep giving you weapons, but you have to give us the minerals. That in and of itself is just American foreign policy laid out in full display. It is very similar to when Donald Trump, the last time around, basically turned around and said, after it came out that MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, had assassinated Jamal Khashoggi, an American legal permanent resident and a Washington Post journalist, when MBS basically assassinated him in the Turkish Saudi embassy. And when that happened, everyone was like, whoa, what the hell? Are you still going to give weapons to Saudi Arabia? And he basically turned around and said, what are you going to do? Do you have $1 billion? If they don't buy it from us, they're going to buy it from somewhere else. Do you have $1 billion to buy these weapons? Somebody's got to buy these weapons. That is American foreign policy. But you rarely ever hear American foreign policy be so openly explained in this way. Usually, Democrats at least know that you have to masquerade as like someone who cares about the rules and someone who is interested in, upholding a certain moral position, a certain moral posture. That's why the Israel stuff under Democratic rulership was incredibly difficult for them to deal with while also propagandizing, because it was very obviously at odds with the international rule-based order, right? It was very obviously at odds with that. And the Democrats could not contend with that reality, and they had a very hard time taking a defensive posture in the ways that they normally would. Trump doesn't do that. He just openly will be like, "Yep, what are you going to do about it?" Yeah. Give me the link for the Elon talks.
What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency?
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X and to the Doge website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact, I don't think
totally. Virtually everything that they've tackled in terms of like combating weird spending habits or whatever are just things that the government spends money on that sounds stupid or is against like the Republican agenda, right? Or even if it's not something against the Republican agenda, the broader Republican agenda, they present it as though it is, right? They'll say like, oh, we're giving condoms to Hamas. That's like a great example of this, right? When that's not the case. Like, you're not going to be able to put a dent in American government spending that way when you're finding like $200,000 or $46,000 that was spent on one thing or $200,000 that was spent on another thing. The American government is major. It's massive. It's incredibly costly. And doing this in the stupidest ways possible without actually hiring regulators, ironically, that understand what these programs are, like with proper audits, with proper auditors, and trying to undermine it across the board is, of course, leading to all of these issues that you have seen so far with like mass layoffs or the threat of mass layoffs that don't make any sense whatsoever. Dude got checked by the judicial branch and called it a coup. Checks and balances don't exist with the guy. That's what I mean. And the last line of defense that barely exists now is the judicial branch saying, yeah, you can't just decide to lay off the entirety of the federal government labor force. Like, you can't do that. These are tens of thousands of people that rely on a paycheck from the government. That's so stupid.
And we're talking about billions of dollars that we've already found. We found fraud and abuse. I would say those two words as opposed to the third word that I usually use.
No, the condom story wasn't just condoms, and it wasn't. Abuse. It was Mozambique.
It's abusive because
and it wasn't just condoms.
Things are
it was a broader anti-HIV. It was a broader HIV prevention initiative that exists in Africa.
But we're talking about tens of billions of dollars that we've already found, and now a judge who's an activist judge wants to try and stop us from doing this. Why? Why would they want to do that? I campaigned on this. I campaigned on the fact that I said government is
Mozambique,
corrupt.
Gaza.
And it is very corrupt.
Is it actually
It's
fraud, though?
very,
No,
very,
it's not.
it's
That's the
also-
problem. You can't just declare something to be a fraud because you don't personally like it, okay? The simplest example is contraceptives. Let's say that there's enough people within the Republican government that consider contraceptives to be unchristian-like. And there are plenty of people who think contraceptives are unchristian-like. You can't just say, oh, it's fraudulent to spend these pre-allocated funds on contraceptive programs in Africa in an effort to combat sexually transmitted diseases. Just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean it's fraud. It's ridiculous. This whole Musk purge is built upon a rhetorical sleight of hand that everything is everything I ideologically disagree with because it's woke and gay is per se waste, abuse, and fraud. And no one in our media highlights this massive category error that is actually kind of important.
Fraud, abuse, all of this horrible stuff going on. And we've already found billions of dollars, not like a little bit, billions, many billions of dollars. And when you get down to it, it's going to be probably close to $1 trillion. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find.
No, that part is completely ridiculous. You are not cutting $1 trillion worth of government spending, okay? I wish.
We have a case in New York where a hotel has paid $59 million. $59 million because it's housing migrants.
Dude, additionally funny, Trump is saying this because he did this with the Trump hotels when he was president. He literally did this. He did this exact same thing with Trump properties while he was president. He would get Secret Service to stay in his own properties to pay exorbitant fees to his own properties. You will see it. America overspending issue is bad. You will think future later. Elon, not perfect, but he's smart. Dog, I am not saying that the American government is not wasteful or even engaging in fraudulent activities. I'm simply stating that these guys are not actually tackling that, okay? If they were looking at genuine fraud, they would end up harming a lot of their, important corporate benefactors. So, of course, they're not going to do that. They're not going to go after, for example, the military, okay? You want to know how I know that they're not going to go after the military and fraudulent extra spending for no reason? Because Donald Trump has already said he's signing off on additional billions of dollars in weapons contracts to the state of Israel, for example. If they wanted to go after fraud and waste, they would not take out the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. How is that taking out fraud? That is an agency tasked with helping consumers and has helped consumers. They've recovered $21 billion of fraudulent and wasteful expenses that these criminal corporations have actually forced upon the American public. For the price point of $1 billion, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has actually given back to the American public $21 billion. You really think they're tackling fraud, or do you think they're making it easier to steal from the American public? To make it easier for corporations to keep grafting you. Yeah, Trump is moving to reverse medical debt and overdraft protections implemented by the CFPB. Wow, how wonderful for the American public. If only there were more people, and not just like random dumbass Twitch streamers like myself, actively talking about this every time they had an opportunity to talk about this. Instead of talking about USAID and how we must defend USAID, and if we don't defend USAID, then China is going to take over. Like, instead of saying like that, maybe they should talk about this. The only other media outlets that I've ever heard this kind of commentary from is myself, Michael from Pennsylvania, Chapo Trap House, TrueAnon, and Majority Report. What is going on? Where is the Democratic Party? This is 100% an abdication of duty, okay? It shouldn't be up to Drop Site News, Majority Report, myself, and some others that are actively saying this is a ridiculous thing that they're doing. It is actually not beneficial for the American public. This is a horrible thing to do, especially when you have someone that is responsive to populist sentiment, okay? It's crazy to me that Hakeem Jeffries is not talking about this every goddamn day, okay? It's crazy to me that the Democratic Party is not going on every news outlet and saying, look at what they're doing. They claim to be on the side of the American public. Instead, they're just showing their bellies, dude. Chuck Schumer also said they're not going to put up a government spending fight as well, which I think is ridiculous. I think they are going to do that, I suspect. That would be insane.
Look, here's the bottom line. The Republicans are already shutting down good chunks of the government.
And no, this isn't hypocrisy baiting, chatter. What are you talking about? This is directly saying that the Republicans are currently actively doing harm to the American public. Do you understand? It's not about like, oh, look at the hypocrites. They said they care about the workers, but here's what they're doing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying communicate that they're harming the workers. This is more than hypocrisy baiting. Hypocrisy baiting is when you say that Trump's border wall is stupid and you're racist for defending it, and then turning around and being like, we are the ones who actually want to build the border wall. Trump doesn't want to build the border wall any longer. That's dumbass hypocrisy baiting. That makes you look like an idiot. That makes you look like you got caught, that Trump was right all along, that immigrants do constitute a national security threat, and that you got caught, and now you're going, oopsie, I guess we want to build the border wall now. Everyone can see that you're the hypocrite in that situation. You're the dumbass in that situation. Saying that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is actually responsible for $21 billion of fraudulent and wasteful and criminal expenditures that the American public had to pay for, the American consumers had to pay for, okay? And then turning around and abolishing that agency being an overall burden, directly talking about medical debt on your credit card, directly talking about overdraft fees, things that every single American can understand, because at a certain point, they have experienced this, okay? They've experienced these problems. They should remind people why they no longer experience some of these problems. It is because of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Same with Lena Khan and all of the initiatives from Lena Khan. Taking out Lena Khan is a massively consequential move. I'm more conservative. Serious question, because I honestly don't know. Are liberals thinking what they are claiming to find in U.S. aid is lies? Liberals are saying that U.S. aid is a profoundly important aspect of American foreign policy that works to continue American dominance by doing soft power initiatives around the globe. Some of those initiatives are actually good for the overall public that receives these initiatives, like, you know, reproductive health care in Africa is good. It's not a bad thing, okay? Even though it is done at the behest of the United States of America doing soft power in these countries, making these countries reliant on the U.S., and making those security cooperation agreements that come later down the line an overall easier one to sell to the broader public. Having said that, however, there is a lot of just insanity in the way that they're targeting things. Like, they'll just be like, oh, well, they're giving $40,000 to a Guatemalan transplant, and then you look it up and it's actually like a joint partnership agreement to fund the arts, okay, between a Guatemalan university and an American university. It's like, yeah, that's not fraudulent expenditure. I think a lot of these dummies also personally think that like anything that they're doing in terms of, you know, pro-LGBTQ or whatever is not done at the behest of like later utilizing these existing relationships as a way to destabilize countries, or at least like to have some kind of civil society organization on the ground to develop a better understanding, to do espionage if necessary. But instead, it's just because we're woke, and we're doing this because we're truly woke. It's a way to believe the propaganda that liberals have put forth. It's ironic, because that means you genuinely believe that the American government is doing things because they're kind. You have to be a real dumbass to think that the American government is doing things because they're kind. Yeah, the American government is woke and gay. That's why they were doing aid. Ridiculous. They're doing aid so they can eventually utilize the existing relationships that they've developed on the ground for whatever suits their purpose. Also, none of it is fraudulent. As Adam Johnson mentions here, everything I ideologically disagree with because it's woke and gay does not mean it's waste, abuse, and fraud. Do you understand? Oh, well, I don't like this personally, so I think it's stupid and bad and abuse and fraud is a ridiculous way to do this, okay? Unintelligent person alive. 3, if you're really implying that U.S. aid is not done out of pure goodness of the American heart, then name one thing U.S. did wrong in the last 50 years. I can't name one. There's nothing I can name in general that America has done in the name of good, okay? Even Ukraine is a great example of what I'm talking about. Ukraine is on the right side in terms of morality, okay? Ukraine has an understandable moral position to rid its national borders of a military invasion. America's interest in Ukraine, however, which Trump basically revealed openly, is not so good. That's it. You have to look at the situation and truly believe that America is always doing good things around the world for you to assume that their intentions with Ukraine is good, even if they openly state that their intentions are not pure. Their intentions are impure. It's also a short-sighted policy because there is a funding after-school programs for undeserved communities, DEI and fraud, but the role of that program is to decrease incarceration, saving the state money. For example, it can also be self-serving. Yes, a lot of the initiatives like that, after-school programs and whatnot, seem costly, wasteful, and stupid. Like, they'll be like, oh, dude, they're doing violin, they're doing like musical education lessons in the south side of Chicago or whatever. And it's like, yeah, that is an incredibly important initiative. As studies have shown time and time again, after school programs actually significantly lower at-risk youth's likelihood to go and do crimes, okay? They're not doing it because they're woke and gay. They're doing it because it's obviously beneficial. It saves the government more money down the line as well if these kids are not doing crime and then doing crime obviously is chaotic. They're stealing cars and whatever. Or obviously you don't want like property loss in general for the broader public, but it's also better overall for the government now that you don't have to like put a bunch of children in the system at an early age. But that requires you to, one, do a little bit of reading. In order to understand these initiatives and the long-term impact of said initiatives, that requires you to imagine an alternative instead of simply closing your eyes and going, nah, dude, I have these racist beliefs that these guys are intrinsically evil and inferior. I won't say that they're inferior because of their race. I'll say they're inferior because of their culture as a substitute for race, and that no amount of violent lessons is going to stop these kids from stealing Kias or whatever, when all evidence points to the exact opposite, that these initiatives are very helpful. Anyway, if only we could get Republicans to think that like the carceral state is woke and gay and incredibly costly. Anyway, here, there was a decent question here in terms of conflict of interest. But if there's a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself, for instance, you receive billions of dollars in federal contracts, is there any sort of accountability, check and balance in place that would provide any transparency to the American people?
There's a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself. For instance, you've received billions of dollars in federal contracts. When it comes to the Pentagon, for instance, which the president I know has directed you to look into. Yeah. Are you policing yourself in that? Is there any sort of accountability, check and balance in place that would provide any transparency for the American people?
Well, all of our actions are fully public. So if you see anything, you say like, wait a second, hey, that seems like maybe that's, there's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately.
Including you yourself.
Yes. But transparency is what builds trust, not simply somebody asserting trust. So not somebody saying they're trustworthy, but transparency, so you can see everything that's going on. And then you can see, am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not? It's totally obvious.
And if we thought that, we would not let him do that.
No, you wouldn't. No, you are doing that. You literally brought up fraudulent and wasteful spending, talking about how the federal government offered millions of dollars to New York hotels in order to house migrants. That's not wasteful spending. That's the federal government actually trying to fix the crisis caused by Governor Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis by, without informing the local authorities, shipping, kidnapping, and trafficking tens of thousands of migrants from the state of Texas into the state of New York to play political football with people's lives. In that process, the federal government has to step in and say, okay, for the overflow, we have to, in the interim period, we have to make sure that these people are housed, okay? So what do? They pay hotels to house the migrants, okay? That is not wasteful spending or fraudulent spending. That's just an understandable thing that the federal government did. You know what is actually fraud? A conflict of interest? When you are the president and you own a bunch of hotels and you actually overcharge the federal government to stay in those hotels during the duration of your presidency, and you make money that way with federal funds. That's actually a conflict of interest. That's actually wasteful spending directly. That is a direct instance of fraud. That's what Donald Trump did. But of course, no one will look at that and go, what the f are we talking about? Also, you got this. Elon Musk's pushing into the financial services with a Visa deal, while immediately after taking out the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It's crazy. Source, not doubting you, have just never heard of this till today. Which one do you want to source for? Donald Trump charging the federal government, or the thing that he just brought forward? Here, Trump overcharged Secret Service by 300% for accommodations at his hotels. House Oversight Committee's report further called the ex-president's term the world's greatest get-rich-quick scheme. It is such a transparent instance of corruption, too. It's crazy. Also, Donald Trump did a cryptocurrency rug pull, dude. What are we talking about? Elon admits he will tell some lies. Yeah, I mean, he's like, oh, my bad. Yeah, we dominated the media cycle for like 48 hours nonstop, but here's where we're at.
$50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact-check this, apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct this statement? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there. Yeah. And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. If I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm sure that's something Americans would be really excited about.
Hello everyone, welcome to another debunking of Ethan Klein's supposed content nuke. So at one point in his supposed content nuke, Ethan Klein attempts to justify the Israeli settler colonial state and its expulsion of Palestinians by glossing over the Nakba, and that basically the Arab world just randomly, crazily became full anti-Semitic, not reacting to anything in particular at all, and expelled and forced out and pogromed all of the Jews. And we're going to go over all of the examples that he uses here to justify this claim. So firstly, let's watch him gloss over the Nakba here.
To think that Jews as an ethnic minority in Israel would not be safe? After all, Israel is a country of refugees. If the Jews didn't come...
It's so funny. Does he think he's a refugee or Keeler Klein are a refugee? You guys aren't refugees. You make refugees. Palestinians are refugees because of you. Get it straight, okay?
From Europe after the Holocaust, they came from the surrounding Arab countries that expelled them in massive amounts following the 1948 war. In fact, there was more Jews displaced than Palestinians during the Nakba.
So the Nakba for him was just a war, like this long-planned expulsion of Palestinians, which the Arab intervention was explicitly a reaction to. So how is it a nation of refugees when it declared its independence and its own like dominion over land that it had taken from Palestinians, when these people weren't even there yet, obviously? And then watch this.
1 million Jews. All of these surrounding Arab countries had vibrant Jewish communities in huge number, hundreds of thousands. Now, if you look at them, you're looking at close to, if not literally, 0 Jews left in these countries. Just to give you...
Now let's go over his examples of this, okay? Let's go over his justifications for this, and let's see how much this lines up with his narrative of expulsion.
Idea. Here's a visual representation of the Jewish refugees after 1948. Morocco had 265,000 Jews. Now it has 2,000.
Okay, so Morocco at this time was not self-ruling. It was still a French colonial possession. What happened in Morocco is that the Jewish Agency, which was one of the leading organizations advocating for forming a colonial state in Palestine and trying to further such ends, struck an agreement with the French governor of Morocco to force Moroccan Jews to immigrate. So what this was Israelis working in tandem with the French colonial power to force the Jews out of Morocco. Morocco did not expel them. Israel sent ships there specifically to pick these people up. Israel was an active participant in this expulsion. And the reason why they did this is obviously because it's to Israel's advantage. If Jews are forced out of other places, they want it to happen. That's why they actively participated in doing it here. Because a Jew elsewhere is not useful to Israel, but a Jew who moves to Israel is. His next example.
Algeria had 140,000. Now it has about 50.
Algeria. What happened in Algeria? Well, Algeria was also a French colony. And when the French colonized Algeria, they murdered about 3 to 4 million Algerian Muslims, who were the majority population. And in an effort to divide and conquer, they attempted to divide the Jewish population of Algeria from the Muslim population of Algeria when they colonized it by passing something called the Crémeau Decree, which afforded French citizenship to all Jews in Algeria. This turned Algerian Jews into French citizens. And soon after this, they integrated into the French settler society, which was oppressing the Algerian Muslims and Christians. Thus, the French Jews became French, both culturally and by citizenship. And unfortunately, most of them decided to collaborate with the colonial power. Effectively, they were French at this point. Then, once Algeria won its independence from France, the French settlers and the French Jews were given an ultimatum: either renounce their French citizenship or leave the country. This was not specifically aimed at Jews, it was for everyone. This was not specifically aimed at Jews, it was for all French. And almost all of the Jews chose to go to France. So this was not an expulsion, nor did these people even go to Israel. They went to France. Again, French colonialism's fault, not the Algerians' fault, same as in Morocco. His next example is Iraq. Iraq is actually a country that very desperately tried to keep its Jews. Iraq even passed laws which forbid Jews from leaving for Israel, as you can see listed here in this article. But what happened? Well, Iraq was the target of pervasive terrorist attack by Zionist/Israeli agents in order to create a narrative there of Iraq being untenable for the continued presence of Jews. After a number of terrorist attacks, and the Israeli government lobbying the Iraqi government to allow Jews to leave, they rescinded the law that prevented Jews from leaving for Israel, which then resulted in mass migration of Iraqi Jews. So as you can clearly see, this is nowhere near as black and white as just people being expelled to Israel. The Zionists wanted the Jews to leave. They wanted them to leave by any means necessary, to the point they started bombing synagogues in order to create this sort of fear among the Jews there so that they would want to leave. And then they exerted government pressure, and then they exerted diplomatic pressure on the Iraqi government to that end as well.
Iraq had 150,000 Jews, now 10. And I want to give a special shout out to my boy over in Afghanistan, one known Jew. We know him, we love him.
So now he brings up Afghanistan. I think it's pretty clear that Ethan Klein doesn't actually know what the fuck is even going on here, because Afghanistan is not Arab. Afghanistan is in Central Asia. It's like Afghanistan is not Middle Eastern, it's not Arab, it's in Central Asia. They don't speak Arabic there. They're not Arab at all. Just because they're Muslim, he thinks they're Arab. Afghanistan did not expel anyone in reaction to the creation of Israel. Nothing like that happened. It was essentially neutral during the whole thing. No one there really cared about it. It was not a part of the coalition that responded to the Nakba by attacking Israel or anything like that. So this simply does not fit into your narrative here. It's outside of it. You citing it is incredibly stupid.
He's the one Afghan Jew.
They were forced to leave their homes, their lives, their property, and migrate to the only place in the world that would accept them, which was Israel. The irony of this whole situation is that after the 1948 war, when Israel won,
he keeps calling Israel expelling and genociding Palestinians to steal its country from them, just a war that they won
the war to declare its independence, the Arab countries got super anti-Semitic against their own Jewish citizenry that had nothing to do with Israel. And
that had nothing to do with Israel. I very much just showed you that a lot of it had a whole lot to do with Israel. Obviously, if you genocide an entire Arab population and do so while screaming, "We're doing this for Jews, we're doing this for Jews, we're doing this for Jews," some people are going to take you at their word. But still, that's not even what happened in the majority of these cases, as I just went over. His Algeria example was just completely misconstrued. The Jews of Algeria, in their majority, went to France. And it had nothing to do with anti-Semitism, everything to do with, them not wanting to let the French colonizers keep living in their country after they kicked them out. Morocco, again, carried out by the French colonial occupiers with the enthusiastic collaboration and lobbying and pushing of the Israelis. Iraq, Zionist terrorists helped that process quite a bit, didn't they? And the Israeli government literally lobbied them for it to happen. Afghanistan, nothing to do with any of this. So he erases the Nakba and slyly tries to justify the Israeli settler colonization of Palestine by just calling a complete ethnic cleansing of as many Palestinians as they could get their hands on in order to steal their land. Nothing more than a war which Israel rightfully won. And then he tries to justify this land being colonized by saying that, well, the people who came were refugees, all of them were just randomly expelled, when in literally all of the examples that he chose, in only one of them was anyone actually even remotely expelled as a result of that, which was Iraq. And that was only after massive Zionist pressure both diplomatic and literal terrorist attacks being carried out in synagogues. Ethan Klein is basically attempting to justify settler colonialism by reframing the colonizers who came there and stole Palestinian land and homes as victims themselves, which, I don't know, in his logic seems to justify it, which not only wouldn't justify it in the first place, but which also just isn't true. So yeah, just another one of Ethan Klein's many ridiculous lies. Oh, and apart from all of that, I'd just like to note as well, this is something very important that most people don't know. But in 1975, there was a joint declaration from the governments of Morocco, Yemen, Libya, Sudan, Iraq, and Egypt that any Jew who had left post-Israeli independence could return and have their property returned. So whatever wrong happened to them here, the countries in question were willing to right this wrong. But Israel wouldn't even let them take them up on this offer if they wanted, because the whole reason why Ethan Klein and other Zionists mention this talking point is not honestly. It's because they just use it to weaponize against the Palestinian right of return, because the Palestinians actually want to return to their homes. The Israelis don't. The Israelis live great. They don't need some grandpa's home in Iraq or whatever. They stole a Palestinian's house and land a long time ago. They're living large at the expense of the Palestinians. So them even bringing this up is total bullshit because, one, it was not simple expulsions, as Ethan Klein likes to claim, and obviously all other Zionists like to claim. Two, the countries in question have offered. They have invited these people back, while Israel has never done that for their Palestinian victims, has it? And they invited them back literally 50 years ago. 50 years ago. In many of these cases, that was like only a few years after they left, like 5-10 years after they left. The Palestinians have been exiled for 80 years by Israel. There's no comparison here. Israel has never made any such offer like this. In fact, Israel has never even acknowledged Palestinian ownership of a single stolen plot of land or a house or anything like that. So yeah, there's no equivalence here regardless of how much Ethan Klein and other dishonest Zionists like himself want them to be. Just another one of Ethan Klein's disgusting lies in his pathetic content puke. Hello, it's me, Minecraft Steve, and welcome to another episode of Ethan Klein's content nuke being dissected quickly and succinctly on specific points that he tried to make within it. So this time we're going to be going over Ethan Klein's incredibly compelling evidence that he was pro-Palestine, which he mentioned in the video. As you saw in the previous video, Ethan Klein was very much against a blockade against Israel and its allies in order to stop shipping that was associated with them and put pressure on them to force them to stop doing genocide. In the rest of his video, he also revealed that he is vehemently against pretty much every single resistance action against Israel. He very clearly believes that it's wrong for anyone to militarily fight back against Israel in any context, whether they are Palestinian or some other country standing up for Palestinians. But there was one thing that he seemed to endorse, and that was charity, because he brought up the fact that he had made a donation to a Palestinian charity as pretty much the only evidence that he had of him supposedly being pro-Palestine, whereas everything else seems to point to the opposite. He was very proud of this, and he genuinely seemed to believe that mentioning this was evidence of him being pro-Palestinian. You know, a millionaire like him throwing $6,500 at something, which for him is nothing at all. We're supposed to just believe that's a huge deal that proves his goodness in spite of all the Zionist propaganda that he's doing. And I think probably the best part about this is that he says it immediately after he frames like Zionist fears and painting of Palestinians as a like evil demographic threat in their own homeland. He does that, and then he immediately moves on to talking about how pro-Palestinian he is. It's absolutely crazy.
Israel as a Jewish state, and considering the historical context of Jews being pogromed from Arab countries, is it really that crazy for them to not feel safe as an ethnic minority?
Is it really crazy for us to keep out our genocided, colonized victims? And then he moves so fluidly from this into just framing himself as a Palestinian ally because he made a donation.
A little bit.
And that's pretty much the entirety of our disagreement. Despite what you've read on TikTok and Twitter, I've donated $6,500 to a Palestinian charity after the war started.
Hey, Ethan Klein, thank you for the dono. Ethan Klein gave $6,500. My goat. Thank you, Ethan.
Okay, he donated $6,500. So let's see what Ethan actually thinks about donations, much bigger donations, in fact.
That's Creators for Palestine raised $1.6 million. That's fantastic. Literally negligible. They've received billions of fucking dollars. It's a good thing. Has $1.6 million had an outcome on anything happening in Gaza? Absolutely fucking not. Has it helped people? Sure. Has it helped fucking the actual, like, movement? No. Like, raise money, that's good. That's the easiest fucking thing you can do is just give money, right? Good. Let's talk about real activism. Let's talk about enacting meaningful change. Total fucking failures. And to address your point...
So $6,500 proves that he is a virtuous pro-Palestinian saint. $1.6 million, negligible, nothing, does nothing at all, totally useless to the movement. And if you're asking, you know, well, what is it that Ethan Klein thinks is actually useful to the movement? Well, he's against everything else as well. He's against literally everything. He thinks actual meaningful action, such as blockading Israeli and allied ships in order to put actual material pressure on them, is wrong. He thinks fighting back against Israel, whether you are Palestinian, Iranian, Lebanese, literally anyone, he thinks that's wrong as well. In fact, he even argued. He argued in this video that wanting to blockade Israel, to put pressure on Israel and its population, to force the government to stop doing genocide in Gaza, he argued that's the same as supporting the Holocaust. Look, I'm not kidding. I know it sounds unbelievable. I know it sounds like I'm making it up. But he literally goes from Hassan Piker, like, talking about how the intention of the blockade is to put pressure on Israel to cause discontent among the population, so they stop doing genocide, they leave Israel, or some stuff like that, because they can't get their frivolous little treats anymore, like their Amazon Prime deliveries. And Ethan Klein's reaction is to straight up say, oh, you wanted to be in death camps, don't you? That's what you're saying.
It's like a hostile... They're streaming this?
Yeah. Yeah. They're flexing.
What? And they're coming in hot with guns.
Yeah, but you have to understand, this is a deterrence. Israeli society is going to start getting upset. They're going to be like, I can't get my treats. I can't get my Amazon Prime deliveries. What the fuck is going on? I hate this. Israel sucks. I'm leaving Israel. That's the goal.
I find it disturbing that Hassan thinks that a slowdown of imports is going to cause Jews to flee.
He says Jews. Like, he's so excited to say the word Jews every time.
80% of Israelis were born there and do not have citizenship anywhere else. So I want them to go, Hassan, back to Poland or back...
He flashed the picture of little fucking Auschwitz death camp. Like, so donations don't count. Donations aren't real activism. That's not effective. That doesn't help the movement. Also, you can't do a blockade against a country actively doing genocide, because that might cause some of the people there to want to immigrate when they can't get their treats anymore, and that's tantamount to the Holocaust. Also, he's against literally any military action or resistance against Israel, no matter what, no matter who. He's just against all of it. Let's take a look at what Ethan and Hila Klein, his terrorist wife, think about protests for Palestine, like just normal protests, you know, nothing else. Like, literally not donating, not actually fighting back against Israeli genocide, not blockading Israeli ships so they can't get their Amazon Prime deliveries, because, you know, that would be the Holocaust. So let's check what they think about something as simple as protesting.
But people who like to criticize the army and Israel need to understand that it's a daily threat, that something needs to happen about it. It's not like we have...
Palestinians are a daily threat.
A choice.
Do you find it ironic when there's these... When you talk about privilege, let's talk about someone who's going to UC Berkeley, paid by their parents $200,000 tuition on campus protesting Israel. Do you find that ironic?
So privilege is not being an Israeli who lives at the expense, especially like Ethan, who chose to move to Israel, who lives at the expense of Palestinians every single day on their land, massacring them, oppressing them for your benefit. No. Privilege is protesting for those people.
I do. When I lived in Israel,
these are millionaires, by the way.
I used to criticize Israel a lot.
Yeah,
like,
me too,
as an
actually.
Israeli.
Yeah.
As an Israeli. Only the people who benefit from the settler colonial project are allowed to criticize. I'm sorry for interjecting so much. It's just so bad.
But when we moved here and I started to go on Reddit and stuff like that, and just being more aware of like the online criticism
it's not just online, but
it's not just online. Yeah, I just became more aware of like the criticism here of Israel and in general around the world, and it's really I personally think it's so ironic. It's just like, I don't know, it's kids sitting here in like beautiful California criticizing, like, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's easy to reduce. It's funny because, like you said, when you're in Israel, you're super critical of the government. You're like, dude,
no, you fucking aren't.
You're expanding in the West Bank. That's bullshit. You know, the government is turning off water and Gaza doing weird shit to control, make land grabs and stuff. And that kind of stuff is like, yo, what are you guys doing? But when you come to Israel and then what you hear is people criticize.
They genuinely think the only people who should be allowed to say anything negative about their settler colonial project made for their racial benefit, Ethan even chose to move there. Again, I have to emphasize that he chose to move there and receive racial benefits just for an accident of his birth at the expense of Palestinians. They genuinely think the only people who should be allowed to criticize that are themselves.
Criticizing national security and calling Israel like apartheid, and that they shouldn't have fences, or that Israel should be...
You mean when you come here and you're here?
Fences to keep your victims out. Fences to keep the people you stole your land from out. So they are against donations. 1.6 million is nothing, but you know, $6,500, that's a lot when you need to leverage it to pretend that you're pro-Palestine for the purposes of making a Zionist propaganda video. Protests? That's the definition of privilege, buddy. Protesting for Palestine. Posting on the internet, criticizing Israel, that's also out. That's also, you know, the definition of privilege, the definition of irony as well. Blockades, that's definitely out. Blockading Israel, boycotting it, sanctioning it, anything like that. That's tantamount to off-switch. It's like wanting to put Jews into concentration camps all over again. It's the Holocaust. And you better believe actually fighting back against Israel is even worse. The fighting back against Israel is like 10 Holocausts, basically. Ethan Klein has not seen a single pro-Palestinian act that he supports, but it's especially ironic that the only thing that he has to point to him apparently being pro-Palestinian is a little token donation that he made once being a millionaire, an amount of money that's nothing for him. And then he comes out and belittles others who donated 246 times more than him. So yeah, what else is there to say? Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ethan Klein's Content Nuke being destroyed. In this one, I want to cover really quickly Ethan Klein spreading a far-right Islamophobic conspiracy theory regarding a made-up holiday which they call International Jihad Day, or International Day of Jihad. And Ethan Klein saw someone else, an Israeli Zionist, say that this day existed, and he just took this guy at his word at face value and included that in his video in like this conspiracy theory regarding Twitch like anti-Semitically blocking Israelis because they're Jewish, which was his claim. So the context of this is that Ethan Klein claimed in this segment that Twitch blocked new signups from Israel on the 13th of October 2023, which is not true because they actually blocked signups from Israel and Palestine, and mentioning the Palestine part destroys his entire argument. So as you can very clearly see in this article right here, Israel and Palestine, something that he leaves out of his article to try and frame it as like an anti-Semitic ban of Jews. And the reason for this, according to Twitch, was that they temporarily disabled signups with email verifications because they were getting a lot of new accounts that were posting like combat footage and like Gaza atrocities and stuff, which they didn't know how to deal with, so they just temporarily assigned signups of new accounts from both Israel and Palestine, not just Israel. So his whole anti-Semitism narrative ruined there, obviously. Not that it would be bad for a website to boycott Israel. It would be good. Israel should be boycotted by everyone all over the world. But in this case, unfortunately, that wasn't the case. It was just a strategic moderation decision to try and control the amount of like, obviously not allowed on the platform, like material showing violence and stuff that was being uploaded from these two places. And Ethan Klein lied about that being an anti-Semitic ban on Israel. But aside from that, he literally claimed that this ban happened because, I shit you not, according to him, Twitch observes a holiday which according to him and this guy who he's uncritically citing is called the International Global Day of Jihad or something. Just watch.
Israeli and American media started to pick up the story, which finally forced Twitch to respond. He also explains the block started on October 13th, which happens to be Global Jihad Day, when Islamic terrorists call on others globally to act, which he thinks is an odd coincidence. They were never...
Global Jihad Day! Day. Twitch banned all Jews in the world on Global Jihad Day. Everyone's favorite holiday, Global Jihad Day. So what actually happened? According to this article, what happened is Khaled Mashal, the former political bureau chairman of Hamas, called for what he called a day of jihad, which was not a day of calling for terrorism or something. He said a day of general mobilization in the Arab and Islamic world and among the free people of the world, a day to rally support, operate and participate actively. It is a day to demonstrate elements to assist Gaza, which was currently experiencing an Israeli military incursion. Now, this was spun by far-right Zionist genocidal conspiracy theorists into being like a yearly holiday in which Global Jihad Day is celebrated and which everyone does terrorist attacks to celebrate it or something. And this conspiracy theory took the words of someone calling for protests, pro-Palestine protests, and they spun that into being like a global day of jihad, a phrase that he did not use. And then this led to real-life attacks and threats against Muslims. And then this led to this Zionist idiot who Ethan Klein just uncritically cites, claiming that there exists a global day of jihad that Twitch apparently observes, like a yearly holiday that Twitch apparently observes. He just repeats that uncritically. He just straight up repeats a far-right, made-up Islamophobic conspiracy theory totally uncritically. So, yeah, folks, Ethan Klein, everyone, he legitimately put forth the notion that the Twitch corporation, owned by the Amazon Corporation, celebrates a global holiday called the Global Day of Jihad, and that them banning IPs from Israel and Palestine on this day was like their way of celebrating and participating in the Global Day of Jihad. This guy legitimately believes that no one can respond to him. He legitimately believes that he's like the smartest guy in the world, and like his opponents just can't possibly deal with his incredible arguments, and that's the sort of thing that
and migrate to the only place in the world that would accept them, which was it.
That's total bullshit. Absolute and total bullshit. Remember what I said about Ethan Klein ignoring people who have already responded to him and debunked him? This is a great example of that.
If it wasn't for anti-Semitism, most of them probably still live in the Arab world.
I mean, yeah, a lot of those families had to leave everything behind, just get up and go.
Total annihilation.
Okay, that is simply not true. But as I went over earlier, where Israel Zionists always saw anti-Semitism as a boon for themselves, you can see there that Ethan and Healer at least kind of acknowledge this, which I guess is okay, good on them, but they don't acknowledge the key role that Israel played in intentionally stoking that anti-Semitism in the Arab world, and the fact that in many cases, there were not so simply expulsions. There was literally the Israelis making deals with these countries to get them to expel their Jews to Israel. Firstly, again, it's important to note that what's happened to Jews in these countries, in these Arab countries, is obviously not legitimate. It was obviously wrong and illegal. However, it was a reaction to the Israeli expulsion of Palestinians. It was a reaction to a unilateral Israeli declaration of independence, followed by expansion, an expansion which has continued ever since. Something which the people who were there beforehand had never agreed to, and which was obviously unjust to expect them to accept. Israel knew that there would be an adverse reaction against this in those countries, against the Jews who were there. They had been warned of it, yet they did it anyway. For two, they present this as like some sort of immediate expulsion, but it simply was not that. Jews leaving these countries happened over the course of the next 10 to 20 years. It was not like, okay, you do this to the Palestinians, we do this to you. In many cases, these countries tried desperately to keep Jews there. They banned immigration of Jews to Israel. They banned immigration of Jews. The Jewish Agency, one of the most important Israeli/Zionist organizations in the entire world, struck a deal with the French governors of Morocco, because Morocco was still a French colony at this time, to have 100,000 Jews forcibly deported to Israel. Many of them did not want to leave. They were essentially forced onto the boat. That's not an Arab expulsion of Jews. It is an Israeli-French expulsion of Jews. Remember what he said about Morocco as his first point there? Great example of Ethan lying, huh? Leaving out context entirely. Israel did this to Morocco. So this narrative that there was like this immediate unified expulsion is simply wrong. Every one of these countries was a different country. They reacted in different ways. Some of them did not want the Jews to leave, and Israel did everything possible to try to force them to leave. One interesting thing, for example, is that the top Jewish emissary in Yemen attempted to get the Yemenis to expel their Jews, and Israeli agents carried out false flag terrorist attacks across the Arab world, especially in Iraq, in an effort to convince the Jews there that anti-Semitism in their country had made their presence untenable. The Iraqi government did not want their Jews to leave. They outlawed Jewish immigration, and the Israeli government, with help from their American and British allies, pressured the Iraqi government to rescind that law, which they duly did. Israel did everything possible to force an exodus of Jews from the Arab world. For Israelis, 7-ish decades later, to now weaponize this is cynical. It was certainly a tragedy, but it was entirely caused by Israel out of their own disregard for Jewish safety in the rest of the world and their own complete disregard for the autonomy of individual Jews, individual Jewish communities, individual Jewish families elsewhere. They considered them as little more than tools for their colonial project and did everything possible to make their lives in their Middle Eastern homes, aside from Palestine, untenable. An extremely important thing as well is that Palestinians have always been conscious of this. Palestinian negotiators have always been adamant that Israel needs to discuss the matter of Jewish compensation or return to the lands that they were supposedly expelled from with those governments, because they are Palestinians. They are not responsible for what those governments did, and they cannot negotiate on their behalf, which is obviously self-evidently true. Another thing is that the Palestinian leadership has for a very long time been conscious of what these Arab Jews mean to the Israeli propaganda narrative. And in 1975, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, at the time the most important Palestinian organization, asked that the Arab nations from which these Jews were from issue a formal invitation to them to return and be given their assets back, or at least to receive compensation. None of them took them up on this offer. In contrast, the Israeli state has never even once, even acknowledged the ownership of a single Palestinian who had been expelled from their land or home, let alone offered to give it back to them. And this is because this entire narrative of Jewish expulsion, the false narrative of mass Jewish expulsion, because while there were expulsions, obviously it was not characterized solely by expulsions. There was a lot of forced migration induced by Israel, some expulsions and then some voluntary migration, is bullshit, because the Israelis don't actually care about this. For them, it is a rhetorical tool that they solely bring up in response to the Palestinian right of return. The Israeli government itself is very careful of this, because they know that if they start talking seriously and openly about this Jewish right to return to other Middle Eastern countries, that legitimizes the Palestinian one. And the Palestinian right of return is what they want to prevent, because these people don't want to go back. You know, they're living at large in Israel at the expense of Palestinians. Why would they want to go and be given like their grandparents or their great-grandparents' land back in Iraq or something? On the other hand, the Palestinians desperately need their land. They have no other land. They have no other assets. They have no other place to go. So for Israel, this is a rhetorical tool that they use. So the government itself doesn't really use it. It's mostly Zionists not operating in an official capacity who like to bring it up. In the 1990s, when the Israelis started paying more attention to this rhetorical strategy, they investigated pushing these claims during the so-called peace process that was going on then, and decided against doing so, or even trying to do like any sort of serious investigation into how much Jewish property had been lost, how much it was worth, and pushing the countries that were involved for compensation for it, because they were worried about the precedent that would set, which would allow Palestinians to do the same regarding Israel. The Israeli state in 1999 even forcibly dismantled the agency that it had set up to represent Arab Jews in their claims for their land and compensation from other Middle Eastern countries, because the organization took on a life of its own and tried to secure equal representation among it for the 1 million Middle Eastern Jews who don't live in Israel. They simply didn't actually care. For them, they set up this organization as just sort of a know-you. And once it became its own thing that no longer suited their interests, they got rid of it. So it is a dishonest narrative. They don't really care about this. It is something that they bring up and frame in a completely dishonest, bullshit way that erases a ton of the history, erases a ton of what actually happened, solely to push back on Palestinians who are attempting to claim their own right to return to the land that Israel and Israelis stole from them. The narrative, as Ethan Klein did there, requires an erasure of the Nakba to really function properly, and it requires a historical denial of what actually happened afterwards to the Jews in the Middle East, a whole lot of which was imposed upon them by Israel, because the full story is not one of reciprocal expulsions that can be compared at all. It is the Zionists and then the Israelis, after they declared independence, implementing a long-held plan to expel the Palestinians, and then also implementing measures to encourage the Middle Eastern Jews to emigrate to Israel, combined with limited expulsions, which themselves only happened as a reaction to what the Israelis first did to the Palestinians, which began before they had declared independence and before the intervention of the Arab states. We need to ask here, if Israel seriously wants to press these claims for Jewish or Israeli property in these Arab countries, well, these Arab countries have been attempting to normalize relations with Israel for decades now. If anything, they are subservient to Israel and its European American allies. Yet Israel, in these negotiations, has never tried to press them for the return of Jewish property and for the right of return for Jews who had, or descendants of Jews who had left these countries. You know why that is? Because Israel doesn't care, because Zionists don't care. For them, this is a tool. Just like they use the Holocaust as a rhetorical tool to somehow legitimize the oppression, the killing, the massacre, the theft of land from Palestinians who had nothing to do with it, to the point that Netanyahu claims that Hitler only wanted to kill Jews because he was convinced by a Palestinian. In the exact same vein, this narrative of the mass expulsion of the Arab Jews is presented as the initiative of like some unified Arab consciousness where all Arabs or all Middle Easterners are responsible for what is done by any country, even though when you actually look at the facts, these things happen differently in many different countries. In many countries, there was no mass expulsion. In many countries, the Israelis did everything they possibly could to force the Jews out themselves. And this sort of homogenization serves to somehow blame this on the Palestinians and thus cynically utilize Jewish historical oppression to legitimize current Jewish supremacy and the horrific consequences of this that we are seeing presently, clear as day in Gaza. Okay, so yeah, brutalized, destroyed, and this was uploaded, and Ethan certainly saw this as almost 300,000 views. This was uploaded on October 28th, before he even announced that he was making this content mute video. He knew that this argument had been made. He decided to ignore it completely. What more is there to say? He's just reiterating the same bullshit narrative.
Israel. The irony of this whole situation is that after the 1948 war, when Israel won the war to declare its independence, the Arab...
He calls the Nakba, as in Israel unilaterally declaring independence against the will of the Palestinian majority who was already there long before they were ever there. By the way, before they even declared independence, they were already expelling and killing Palestinians with the purpose of a long-held plan of getting rid of as many of them as possible. He frames that, which was a settler colonial ethnic cleansing, he frames that as a war, an independence war, and Israel as like the victims of a like massive anti-Semitic Arab invasion, when the Arab reaction was actually to that unilateral declaration of independence. It was actually to Israel deciding, okay, we're going to form a settler colonial ethno state here against the self-determination of the people who were here before us and who outnumber us still. It's ludicrous framing.
Countries got super anti-Semitic against their own Jewish citizenry.
They got super anti-Semitic. Oh, give me a
that had nothing to do with Israel. And as a result, they kicked them all out, 1 million plus of them, and forced them to go.
1 million plus.
The one place they hated the most, Israel. And now those same people that forced
Israel forced them there more than the Arab countries did.
them out of their homes are telling them they don't belong there. So if the Jews of Israel are surrounded by Islamic militant terrorist groups,
the Jews of Israel are surrounded by Islamic militant terrorist groups. That's how he frames.
Stated their goal is to annihilate Israel as a.
So Israel is surrounded by Hamas. Why does Hamas exist, Ethan Klein? Was Hamas there before Israel existed? Or was it formed in the 80s, partly on the initiative of Israel itself, because Israel funded Islamists in Gaza, hoping that the Islamists would become more popular than the secular organizations because they saw the Islamists as being easier to control. That didn't work out as they thought, did it? Hamas was formed as a reaction to already 40 to 50 years of Israeli oppression, ethnic cleansing, genocide, settler colonialism in Gaza, in a concentration camp. This is a resistance group. And he frames it as just poor little Israel is surrounded by evil Islamist anti-Semites. Hezbollah was formed in reaction to multiple Israeli attacks and invasions on Lebanon. Why was Israel attacking and invading Lebanon? Because the Palestinian resistance went there. So these are groups that only exist due to Israeli aggression, due to Israeli oppression, due to Israeli genocide, due to Israeli settler colonialism. It's a circular logic, isn't it? Israel does settler colonialism, Israel does genocide, Israel brutalizes people, Israel seals their land, Israel ethnically cleanses them, Israel forces them into concentration camps, Israel continues today to settle and attack their land, take as much as it possibly can from them, to brutalize them. Those people form groups out of whatever little they have, whatever little they can do to fight back against that rather than just dying on their knees. And Ethan Klein uses the resistance that is bred by what Israel does to justify what Israel is. It's this idiotic circular logic of perpetuating genocide, of perpetuating settler colonialism, of perpetuating the situation. Israel is framed as like this poor little baby boy that out of no fault of its own is now hated by these damn Islamist terrorists for no reason whatsoever, somehow not mentioning the situation that these supposed evil Islamist terrorists even cropped up in. It's literal Nazi logic. We invade these people, we kill them, we steal their land because they are subhuman and we don't want them there and we want them gone. They form resistance groups and they fight back against us. Their resistance proves how barbaric and subhuman them are. Ergo, we are more justified in what we're doing. Brilliant logic, dude. Really smart, really great pro-Palestinian brain, pro-Palestinian voice you are. Presenting groups that only exist as a result of Israeli oppression and colonization, as themselves justifying the Israeli oppression and colonization. Ridiculous. This narrative that he's trying to spread here of like supposed Jewish peril in Israel being justified by these supposedly like anti-Semitic groups who want to genocide all the Jews or whatever is, as I said, totally circular because he acts like these people just popped out of the ground one day wanting to blow up Israel, ignoring the circumstances of their existence. I want to note as well, like, how ready and willing Ethan is to frame basically any Arab or Muslim who he sees as like little more than a terrorist motivated by nothing more than like religious bloodlust. With the idea with Israel, you know, it's really complicated. Like, can you expect anything more from them? After all, they're besieged by these evil Islamic terrorists, and Israel and the IDF are obviously the aggressors. But with these people, like Hamas, Hezbollah, these groups that only exist as a reaction to Israel, to the atrocities of Israel, to the crimes of Israel. It's just, they're just Jew-hating terrorists. There's really nothing more there. There's nothing more that caused this. Just clear racism. And it gets worse throughout the video.
Jewish state. And considering the historical context of Jews being pogromed from Arab countries, is it
lie
really that crazy for
as I went over
them to not feel safe as an ethnic minority, even a little bit?
Okay, so Ethan Klein is justifying ethno-nationalism there. Ethan Klein thinks that if you feel unsafe as an ethnic minority, you get an ethno-state. So he claims that he's pro-Palestine, he claims that he's not a Zionist, yet there you have him straight up justifying the existence of Israel with this narrative of Jewish peril. So I guess if you feel unsafe as an ethnic minority, which, to be clear, isn't true. Jews live in the US, in France, in wherever the fuck else, and they're safer there than they are in Israel because Israel is a colonial state. Colonialism breeds resistance. Obviously, they are way, way safer than their Palestinian victims, don't get me wrong. But the notion that Israel is legitimized by this Jewish safety argument when you could go live in New York when you were born in the USA is fucking ludicrous. And it's, as I said, just a circular logic as well. Aren't we justified in feeling unsafe as an ethnic minority? Because the people who have been victimizing, massacring, genociding, the people whose very land, whose very country we stole in order to form ours, because they hate us, doesn't that legitimize our existence? Doesn't that further legitimize everything that we've done to them? Circular logic, as I've been saying.
And that's pretty much the entirety of our disagreement. Despite what you've read on TikTok and Twitter, I've donated $6,500 to a Palestinian charity after the war
You're a millionaire, dude. No one cares.
started.
Hey, Ethan Klein, thank you for the dono. Ethan Klein gave $6,500. My goat. Thank you, Ethan.
Condemned Netanyahu as a war criminal. They're led by Netanyahu.
This is just like he's trying to frame himself in a positive light, and he's still making it clear that he's not pro-Palestinian.
Who should resign in disgrace and go to prison for being a war criminal, called the West Bank settlements an abomination. Settlers in the West Bank are religious zealots, they're monsters, they're genocidal. I've even said
It's not true. Most of them aren't religious.
West Bank settlers are valid military targets. When you talk about like colonial settlers and stuff, like that's what's actually happening in the West Bank right now.
I just want to address this right after he's
And these people are more or less valid military targets, in my opinion. My only crime.
Ethan, if settlers in the West Bank are valid military targets, which to be clear, I don't even explicitly agree with that. Like, I understand why Palestinians might target them. I mean, they're fucking stealing your land and homes. Would you not be angry at them? Would you not attack them? However, calling them valid military targets, like in their entirety, I don't know, man. I think military energy would be much better spent on attacking, you know, the actual soldiers, if possible. However, it is completely out of line and logically incomprehensible to say that you think West Bank settlers are military targets, but you think the Gaza envelope that was attacked on October 7th was little more than an anti-Semitic massacre of Jewish civilians. Because most West Bank settlers aren't even like on the front line, like they're behind a wall that separates them from Palestinians. There's not really any easy access to them. The ones on the front line who are like actively trying to steal even more land, those are like the really bad ones, right? Do you know what the Gaza envelope is? Let me show you a map. So the Gaza envelope is basically what was attacked on October 7th, and there is like encirclement of settlements surrounding Gaza, like here, you know, all around it. And these settlements explicitly exist because in 1948, and I have another video on this, I've gone over all of this shit already, trust me. In 1948, what Israel did is they expelled everyone from this area here and also from a lot of other places. They expelled them to Gaza, and then they sort of created a perimeter around it of settlements and military bases in order to keep them in. So the settlements that surround Gaza are built on like the ruins of Palestinian villages, Palestinian houses, and they specifically exist to provide Israel with a first line of defense, a shield against Palestinians from Gaza trying to go back to the places that they were expelled from. Again, this video that I have on that is a very in-depth video about that. The IDF was assigned to determine the location of new settlements around Gaza, which would be integrated into the territorial defense system in order to basically defend against Palestinians. Essentially, these settlements exist as colonial frontier human shield settlements in order to keep Palestinians confined into Gaza. They are the front line of defense, which is why there's so many military bases all around them. And quite simply, those who choose to live in these settlements are way worse than most West Bank settlers. Even worse. I'm not saying West Bank settlers are good. They are crazy, maniacal murderers, colonial settler maniacs. But people who live in the Gaza envelope settlements are worse than most of them. You have to be something of a settler colonial maniac to actively choose to live in a place that exists to make you sort of a human shield against the victims who were expelled, so that your settlement could be built on the ruin of their land, on the ruin of their own. People from these settlements are noted for that particular sadisticness in, for example, whenever Gaza is bombed, they set up like couches and get their binoculars out so they can watch the Palestinians being massacred. So it doesn't make any sense for Ethan Klein to say that West Bank settlers are fair game and then try to frame October 7th as little more than like an inexplicable attack on Jews being Jews by like Palestinians who sprouted out of the ground as while being anti-Semitic. If October 7th had happened in the West Bank, Ethan Klein would be equally against it as he is against it coming from Gaza. And I think it's ridiculous that he pretends otherwise. It's ridiculous that he would say something like that he clearly does not believe in, just to try and frame himself as pro-Palestinian, as if we all can't see like the broader context of what he has said before and what it means about his ideology and what he openly said in this video. He's a two-statist because he believes that a Jewish majority needs to be maintained because Palestinians are a demographic threat and they cannot be allowed to have a higher number in the population than Jews because, oh, well, massacred them, they're innately anti-Semitic. We can't trust them. We'd be unsafe. We'd be unsafe living beside our victims. We need to keep them out even more. Like, what a joke, man.
Is wanting a two-state solution instead of one.
So this is like just people calling him racist and stuff, calling him a Zionist. There's nothing wrong with any of these messages. These are all accurate. Like, he's just pissed that people accurately clocked him and that we can also all see through his bullshit claiming that he's like actually pro-Palestinian just because he's against Netanyahu because he used the word genocide once or twice. As if we haven't seen him arguing with everything else that I've gone over with his slimy whitewashing of the Nakba. I mean, he's obviously a Zionist. I don't need to go on here. He's obviously a Zionist, and he thinks that just because he says he's like a liberal Zionist instead of like a Netanyahu-style Zionist, that makes it okay. By the way, guess what? I have another recent video all about liberal Zionists, liberal Zionism and why it's crap and bullshit that you should definitely check out. If you're going to watch any of the videos that I recommended you of mine here, check this one out. It's called Jewish Exceptionalism, Liberal Zionism, and Jewish Supremacy, and it will explain a lot of the stuff here regarding Ethan Klein's ideology, because he is precisely the sort of person who this video is about.
And thinking it's not okay to kill Israeli civilians. That's it. That's why they're calling me a Nazi.
He said it was okay to kill Israeli civilians in certain contexts, like the West Bank. As I just said, so apply that logic to the Gaza envelope, which is way worse than the West Bank in most cases.
Yes, and because of Hassan and others spreading this malicious lie about my beliefs, I'm even getting harassed on the street.
So how come you don't like Palestine?
I like Palestine.
No, you don't.
Why do you say that?
Because, bro, you're... wasn't she in the IDF?
Yeah.
Oh.
disgusting. She was in the IDF at the time.
Oh, damn, that's crazy.
Mandatory service.
That's sad.
Nothing mandatory about it. You can refuse. It's quite easy to refuse. The penalty for refusing is like 3 months in prison. Way better than helping to massacre babies, isn't it? I've been over this before. Don't worry. I've been over this before. Oh my God, it's just endless shit. No, I mean, I don't know. This is taking too long, man. I feel the need to respond to every little thing because it's all such bullshit and wrong. I need to stop that impulse. It's too much.
That's terrorism, bro.
She was born there.
That's sad.
She's born there, so it can't be terrorism, I guess. Well, Hamas was born there. Are they terrorists?
Bad for you guys. Ethan Klein, bro, you're ugly as fuck, bro. You're ugly as shit. You look like a rapist, bro.
Look in the fucking...
You look like a fucking rapist, Ethan. Feel bad for you guys. Ethan Klein, bro, you're ugly as fuck, bro. You're ugly as shit. You look like a rapist.
I say nothing wrong with this. Nothing that he said is wrong.
Bro, I'm tired of all these coward Americans in the South trying to act like they're so tough. Oh, I'm American. Oh, you don't even run your own country. You don't run your own country, bro. You don't run your own country. A foreign country. They run your country.
Okay, this guy's a dumbass, actually.
Oh my God.
What he said in the first clip was not wrong, though. Now, obviously, Israel does not control the USA. The USA, if anything, controls Israel. But that just makes a lot of Ethan Klein's arguments worse because, like, he tells people to vote for Biden in spite of Biden fully supporting the genocide when Biden could, with a phone call, force Israel to stop it whenever he wants. He has that power easily. You know, he could threaten to withdraw all military support, all military supply. He could threaten to just straight up, like, invade them, attack them or something. He didn't do that, did he? So obviously the USA is the one who controls, the one who, if anything, controls Israel. And this guy is just, Ethan's like, look at this guy, right? Guilt by association. Here's a clip of Hassan with this guy who harassed me, apparently. Everything that he said to you was correct. Call harassment if you want. He's not wrong.
Can I give you a hug, bro?
I'm so sweaty, bro.
I love you, bro.
I'm so
Is Hassan supposed to know who this guy is?
I love you, bro. I have to interview you. You're my hero, bro. I love you. Bro, you're the coolest guy in the world, bro. Hold on, I think I look gay.
This guy likes Hassan. Ethan, do you know the people who like you? If you want to do guilt by association, let's talk about your guilt by association with Destiny, the sex criminal, and like hundreds, thousands of his fans, Ethan.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Hold on, I think I look gay in them.
Okay.
It's a funny thing about me. I don't like terrorism, and I don't like terrorists. If they're
You're married to a terrorist. You're married to a terrorist, Ethan Klein.
Jews, Christians, Muslims, they're all bad. What is terrorism? It's intentionally targeting civilian population for political goals.
That's Israel. You just described Israel. Your wife was a member of the IDF. Call her a secretary if you want. Do you think that a secretary for the Hamas military wing would not be a terrorist? You would think they would be a terrorist 100%. So why is a secretary for the IDF not a terrorist? Not to mention that, but as we went over in the clip earlier, she was like a logistical employee who was far removed from the front line. She found that boring, so she asked to be transferred to somewhere with more action, and they sent her to the occupied West Bank, where she was worked directly under the regional commander in charge of doing terrorism against Palestinians in the West Bank in Ramallah. And that was still not fun enough for her, so she asked to go on an outright terrorist raid. If that's your definition of terrorism, then your wife is a terrorist. It's that simple.
I don't like it. None of it. And over time, I started to learn that my co-host, he really likes terrorists.
They do musicals. They're very musical people.
I want him to try to explain how these people are terrorists. I want to see him actually argue for that without just appealing to people already thinking they're terrorists because they're Arab. I want him to argue for why these people are terrorists and why Hitler Klein is not. Because if these people are terrorists, Hitler is a mega extra, like omega terrorist.
Serious? Dog, what do you... Look, you think I made this? Isn't I know they're singing, but I'm seeing just guns and shit. This isn't a music video, Hassan.
Taking over these ships, they started targeting the ships.
People on this helicopter right now?
Yes.
They're streaming this?
Yeah. They're flexing.
What? And they're coming in hot with guns.
Yeah, but you have to understand, this is a deterrent. You think the Houthis, Ansar Allah, is doing what Luffy would do. You should tell him that.
Hezbollah is a paramilitary organization.
Do we like them or no?
He just said that the Houthis he put an ISIS flag next to Luffy from that anime or whatever. It's funny how I know the name of the character but not the anime. But like to say, One Piece, that's it. To try and say that the Houthis are the same as ISIS when the Houthis literally fought ISIS. Fucking moron.
I don't have an issue with them, let's just say. But they are a terrorist organization. Like they're designated. They are designated by the American state as a terrorist organization.
I do not.
Cuba was designated by the US state as a state sponsor of terrorism. Does that mean that Cuba is a terrorist organization? Whether someone is a terrorist or not is not decided by whether the US government designates them as such, okay? That's a simple fact. The US government is a geopolitical actor. It's going to designate whoever the fuck it considers its enemies as terrorists. That's why it considered Nelson Mandela a terrorist until 2008. Means fucking nothing. If your evidence is the US government says so, then you are so lobotomized I don't even know why I'm bothering to respond to you.
I like them then.
Well, he is regarded as a pretty brilliant person in terms of like everything that he's done.
Then I saw clips like this where Hassan is explaining how he's hiding his
He doesn't actually tell us why they're terrorists.
power level to funnel in normies into radicalization.
I think that in the short term, in order to combat against that, you have to advocate for a much lighter form of propaganda. You want America, in the way that I feel about it, and if you want America to get out of the way for places with more revolutionary potential to do what they would normally do, I think that, you know, one thing you have to do is advocate for a lighter form, while simultaneously still doing agitated propaganda that goes beyond, you know, social democratic idea.
I just wanted to like put emphasis on the exact point of the so-called radicalization funnel, where, for example, Hassan and JT catch them while they're young, as they say, and then they start looking into this new idea, etc., and then move forwards through the funnel, get more and more informed, get more and more radicalized.
Is Ethan like just presenting to us by default this idea that like having radical politics, like radical leftist politics, is bad, and we're just supposed to take it as like being bad? What about what Hassan actually has said is wrong? Like, he just presents everything as self-evident. As I was like, is he going to explain to us how these people are terrorists? Is he going to explain to us why they're wrong and why Israel, who they are opposed to, is right? He's not. He just skips over everything. He doesn't make arguments. He just shows clips, and maybe like for 1 out of 10 of the clips, he actually responds to them.
You do your part in the funnel for the cause, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. You're doing, in my modest opinion, a great thing for the cause.
Now listen to Hassan during our very first conversation lie to me about how he's a social democrat to hide his power level.
We should move towards a Sweden-style economy or a Norway-style economy, which would be a social democracy.
You have to.
But he's not lying about that here. He's not lying about shit. That he's like a gradualist. Like, he believes in like he said we should move to a social democracy. How does that mean that he's not also a socialist, right? There's lots of people who are like this, who believe that, like, you know, you should have short-term goals that are more realistic, and eventually you will move towards something that you want more that you want, right? Like, you surely understand that, Ethan Klein. Don't you advocate voting for Joe Biden even though he does genocide? Don't you understand compromise in the short term for supposed long-term benefits? Which isn't even on the same plan as what Hassan is saying here, by the way. But like, you're presenting this as a gotcha, as if Hassan hides who he is. He does not.
Jesse Lee Peterson had friend of the show, Adam Friedland, on. You don't often see two brilliant political minds come together in the marketplace of ideas, and this is certainly not one of those moments either. However, I assume that this will be fairly funny.
What's Adam's name?
Friedland.
Oh, I have with me Adam Friedland. He is a stand-up comedian and the host of the Adam Friedland Show.
Friedland. Yeah, Friedland. Yeah.
Friedland
show. Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
You murdered that intro, Jesse. We had a nice talk before this started.
Absolutely.
I was told before you came into the room that I had to sign the consent form because you don't trust me.
Right. You know how the Jews are, right?
What are you doing, Jude?
Whoa, okay. I was like, I wonder if he'll say, I wonder if he'll say something anti-Semitic. And before I could even say it, well, he popped off right there.
You're starting with this.
That is technically the first question he's directed towards Adam.
What a mess.
How are you?
Let me ask, you were a lawyer before you became a comedian, right?
No, I got into law school, yeah.
And how come all the Jews are lawyers and doctors? Why don't they be like...
What do you mean, all the Jews? Because their parents yelled at them to get good grades. What do you mean?
So their parents didn't yell at them, hey, one day you could become a trash picker-upper, or...
What parent is telling their kid to be a trash picker-upper?
They make good money being a trash picker up.
Do you think there's a single parent that's like, you should be a garbage guy?
Oh yeah.
To a child? No, you say you get a good job or something?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not a crazy thing to be like, you should get a stable work. I don't think it's a Jewish thing either.
Oh yeah.
I think our parents are just annoying enough to like be like, all right, fine, just stop it, just shut. No, I'm just kidding.
All of my Jewish friends are either lawyers, doctors.
Dershowitz.
They own
Dr.
the hospitals. They
hospital owner.
All right.
Who people own a hospital?
The Jewish people do, not normal people.
So you think that it should be socialized medicine? You're like a Bernie guy.
No way. I am not.
I think that people.
No, Adam. He just doesn't want Jews to own the hospitals. He wants normal people to own the hospitals, as in non-Jews.
Anyone should go to the doctor.
You think that they should?
I think you should go to the doctor. It shouldn't be, yeah. If you have cancer, you should go to the doctor. Like, you shouldn't lose all your money if you have cancer. Sure.
But also,
call me a live and let live Christian. You're the one that wants all these Jewish hospital owners to stay in business.
That's right.
In a functioning society, this man would be in a home, taken care of by a nurse, and out of polite company. Maybe we should go back to doing lobotomy. No, I think that this sort of program would absolutely exist in a functioning society as well. Make no mistake, we are not in a functioning society, but a program where, you know, a guy like Jesse Lee Peterson, who is obviously not all there, gets to have. Oh, you were talking about Adam. No, he would get to do all this. You still think he's playing a character? No, he's not. I've met him. He's not playing a character. He's absolutely being, I wouldn't say like manipulated, I guess. Like, he's definitely not capable of making decisions on his own. I've been on a show before. I think that a lot of the things that he speaks about are his genuinely held opinions. And I think that there's a lot of more competent people around him that basically put him into this position.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I told my parents I wanted to be a clown, and they were like, "You're a moron. You're one of the dumbest guys ever." Like, what? Can you imagine coming out of the closet as a clown to your parents? In retrospect, it was one of the most insane things I ever put them through.
And were they disappointed? Were they disappointed in you?
I mean, would you be if your son was like, "Mommy, I'm a clown," like, or "Daddy, like, God put me here to be a clown"? No, you wouldn't be here. But no one's like, "Oh, you should go be a nightclub comedian" to your kid. You should have like a nice job, a stable job, and like you know, a parent doesn't want their kids to struggle financially.
They do not. Probably. Why not?
Because I think it's very difficult when you're.
Adam is confusing Jesse here by talking about things that are not within his realm of interest, like socialism, or what Jesse Lee Peterson considers is socialism, which is allowing black people to, you know, have the same rights as white people. And if you think I'm joking, I am not. Jesse Lee Peterson openly is a black white supremacist.
What's important to you?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know, like what's important to me? That's a big question, Reverend. I feel like I'm doing confession right now.
You can call me Jesse.
No, I want to respect you as an ecclesiastical.
My name is Jesse, not Reverend. A Reverend just tell you what type of work you do, but that's not
the Dr. Reverend Emeritus Professor
Dr.
Jesse.
Reverend Bishop. Pope.
Bishop. The good Bishop. What's
important to you?
I guess family. Yeah, the people I know.
I really appreciate Jesse Lee Peterson because he demonstrates that like anyone can be a right-wing commentator. He is the living embodiment of the principle that like you literally do not have to. You need to be reminded to breathe manually, and you can still be a relatively successful right-wing political commentator. This man has 607,000 subscribers, and if you think like the entirety of his audience actually watch him to like make fun of him or something, you would be wrong. I'm not even joking. He has like actual fans who sit there, watch him. You're such an Wait, what? No, I'm not. This is just the truth. No, people unironically listen to him and and think he's brilliant.
Are you married with children?
I mean, I have a girlfriend.
But you're not married.
No. I want to have kids. Yeah, I want a family of my own.
And why?
I don't know. I think it's like the point of, it's something I think I'd be a good parent. My mother passed away 4 years ago. And it made a big impression. That experience made a big impression on me.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. Wow, Jesse, we're really getting into it right now. I learned to appreciate family in a way that I've never seen before.
This is not uncomfortable.
And it kind of...
This man, okay, a lot of you are like, oh, this seems like elder abuse. Guess what, dude? Joe Biden was president for 4 years, okay? It's content. He seems to like it. Let him live his life. A lot of you are over here being like, oh, I can't believe it. Like, this is a lobotomy patient. Like, why is he on television? Okay, what are you, a Republican? Do you want to do anti-DEI initiatives now? What's going on? This is an advocacy for accessibility. You can be a lobotomy patient and have a functioning YouTube channel. That is awesome. That's why I said, like, unironically, in a well-functioning society, this is what you would do to all of the elders that still choose to be on camera like this. Stop being ableist.
But let me ask, what do you think about the war between Israel and the Palestine? Palestinian or Palestine?
Does anyone think war is good?
You're right, it's not. But what should happen? What
should happen? I think war is probably bad, right?
War is awful. I agree.
Yeah. No one's like, hell yeah, war. Yeah.
What a mess.
Yeah. You know what? My thing these days is to know less. Right?
What a mess.
You reminded me of something that happened recently in our country.
That's the second take he has in the repertoire. He's got amazing, and then if he doesn't want to constantly repeat amazing, he goes, what a mess. It's a new emote that he unlocked.
And around. There was the Palestinian people going around to the university here in this country, and they were carrying the Palestinian flag, and they were chanting, "Death to Israel, death to America." That I couldn't believe that. Well, you there in New York, you're right in the midst of. What was that like
people in Vietnam.
A lot of Democrats need to really reconsider their position if they find themselves in agreement with this man. The fact that there are so many, obviously, like, a lot of Republicans agree with him across the board. He's a Republican. But, like, if you are a Democrat and in any way, shape, or form, or a liberal in any way, shape, or form, and you find yourself in agreement with the good doctor, the Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, on this issue, you really got to reconsider.
College kids protest typically, like wars.
But not
that's a thing that's happened a million times, right?
But they shouldn't be on our land.
I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I'm saying it's not a new thing, right?
Right. What was it like hearing them say on our land, they in our country chanting death to America?
I mean, America's the sickest country. I mean, we make like we have like dunking, NBA, hip hop, we make Goodfellas. We've done some of the best stuff here in America.
Right.
But who cares? It's just some kid saying some crap. What are you gonna be like, oh, I'm so afraid? It's a kid, some 90-pound kid. That's not really an issue. I think it is a little bit. That's a little bit like
America's the best because it invented dunking. So stupid.
But sometimes
you were protesting Nam. But you were lighting that damn flag on fire back in the day.
But
I'm teasing you. Yeah, I know.
But it concerned me because they have so much anger toward America and Israel.
What the hell are they gonna do? Like an 18-year-old girl that's studying they/them studies at Columbia? What is she gonna do?
But
she's actually gonna kill America? You think America is going to? She's saying death to America. You think that an 18-year-old girl studying genders or whatever is gonna kill everyone? You think she can do death to America?
No.
It's kind of a little bit pussy to be like, I'm afraid of that.
Right, what you might not understand.
Don't you think?
But listen,
but saying you're afraid of that is a little bit hysterical.
But what you may not understand is that, Adam, She might not do it, but the people who have convinced her to go out and protest and carry on, they can do it.
Who are the people? Soros and stuff?
The Allah Waba people.
Allah Waba? What is that? I think it's a little bit just like, come on, bro. We gave money to the war, so they're protesting it. I mean, like, how is it? You think Alu Akbar sent a 90-pound girl to Colombia to do a protest?
His representative did.
This is literally what arguing with fascist coworkers feels like. I mean, yeah, Jesse Lee Peterson embodies coworker politics to a T. Straight up. He perfectly represents coworker politics. Yeah, he is the coworker and boss.
Who's Alu Akbar? What are you talking about? It's a kid out of college.
You know how when they put on the belt with the bombs on them, and just before they're about
suicide bomber, yeah,
and just before they get ready to go off, they say Allah Akbar.
So you think this kid at school got a call from Alu?
It sucks that Jesse Lee Peterson is so stupid that he can't be racist appropriately. Like, his intellectual capacity is getting in the way of him being adequately racist. He can't even say, like, no, these like Muslims, the Allah Baba people.
Akbar?
No, but the people who put her out there.
Jesse, you don't even think it. You're laughing right now.
Listen,
you don't even think it, bro.
Do you hear me? I'm telling you, it wasn't the kids because they didn't even know why they were out there.
There's enough problems in the world for us to be like, oh. Can I tell you this? To be Jewish in America for 37 years, I'm 37, it's the best it's ever been in 1,600 years. Jewish people have been killed and stuff, like, throughout history.
Right.
In America, it's been sick. I get to be a white guy. Do you know how sick it is to be a white guy?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's hard on white people that they're blamed for everything and they're not responsible for anything.
Oh, it's been awesome being a white guy, bro. It's been phenomenal. I don't want to lose it. Maybe these 18-year-old girls are going to take white away from me. Then we got a problem.
I mean, well,
if they take that, then people are so angry these days.
Absolutely.
And I think it's because they're lonely. Really, that's more concerning to me than a kid. At least the kid that's going out with saying "Death to America" is going outside. Don't you think? At least they're going outside. Because a lot of these people are just isolated and alone. That's more of a problem in my mind.
At least they're going.
If you're going out and protesting and saying "Death to America," you're participating in a community, right?
They were saying "Death to Israel and America." And my concern is that we allow
First Amendment, baby.
Allow these people
First
to come
Amendment,
in.
baby. Free speech, baby.
Not for these people.
Why?
Because we allow them to come into our country. It's like me inviting someone into my home. It's like me inviting a family member to my home and they'll shout a death to you.
Listen, dude. Free speech is.
Damn, he's like, I got him. I got him. He really nailed it, dude. Mic drop. Adam destroyed in the marketplace of ideas.
Are you a liberal Jew or a conservative Jew?
No, I'm not a liberal. For sure not.
Are you a conservative?
No.
Do you participate in politics at all?
I don't know. I mean,
he didn't even say conservative Jew. He said conserva Jew. Amazing.
What do you mean participate? Like voting?
Yeah.
I mean, I have voted.
And did you vote?
I live in New York, right? So like, what's the point of voting? Because like Kamala is going to win by a bunch. So it's kind of your vote doesn't really matter unless you're in a swing state, right?
Did you vote Did you vote for the Great White Hope?
For who?
The Great White Hope. Classic. Crazy that I also debated this brilliant mind almost a decade ago, and the line of questioning has not changed. Also, partially because the Great White Hope, Donald Trump, is president once again, so he gets to hit the exact same lines, dude.
Donald? No, I didn't vote for him. It must have felt great though to vote for Donald.
You did not vote for
it must have felt awesome.
Are you serious? You did not vote for the Great White Hope?
Yeah, I'm serious.
And why not?
Yeah, but I don't know. I didn't want to.
And why not?
I didn't believe in the, what either party was espousing. I mean, I don't think it's like, you're a conservative fellow?
Yes.
And you voted for Trump's, right?
The great white hope.
Dude, it must have felt great. Did it feel good?
And you know my dream team?
Do you remember waiting in line voting for Trump? You must have been so excited.
My dream team or Donald
LeBron,
Trump,
MJ, Kobe,
Netanyahu, and Putin.
And Putin. For what?
The dream team.
To what? Like go out and get pussy on a Friday night together? Sorry, I shouldn't say stuff like this. You're a man of God.
But listen, why do you vote for the Great White Hope?
If he was like everyone can get health insurance, I might have voted for him. Sure.
Oh, so you believe in socialism?
In what sense?
Do you support socialism? Period.
Do you think that Kamala was socialism? Are you one of those guys?
He doesn't think, but he does. Yes, he does.
You didn't answer the question yet. Do you support socialism?
In what sense?
Period.
I think so. Yeah, I think that you should view history in terms of who has things and who doesn't. Sure. Yeah.
Why is that?
It makes sense to me.
Why is that?
Like who has the resources and who doesn't. It makes sense.
But most people that don't have it, they don't have it because they don't want it, because they know that there are people out there like you that support socialism and that you're going to give it to them.
Who supports socialism? No one actually does.
Yeah.
There's no political party that actually does.
There are people who rely on people to give them stuff, and they support socialism.
Wait, who does, though? Who in the government does?
I'm sorry?
Who in the government is doing that?
The right-o Republicans, the Democrats.
They're doing socialism?
They're supporting it.
Yeah, like Mitt Romney, an active advocate of socialism. Who amongst us can forget Mitt Romney and Liz Cheney actively trying to create the dictatorship of the proletariat?
Which ones?
You know which one. Which one?
Seriously, I don't know. There are socialists.
Once again, I am wishing for a future where the Democratic Party was exactly the way that Republicans presented them as. It would be so amazing. If American politics was even marginally as close to the way that Republicans represent the Democratic Party in American politics as, it would be so sick.
Is it Republicans?
Yeah, the right-os are. But let me be let me ask you this.
I'm not trolling you. Who are these guys, though?
I'll tell you later.
Who is it, though?
The right-os.
You're awesome. You're like, my friend's dad is exactly like you. And he's the best, dude. He's got a boat. He says things like, my boat, my rules. He says stuff like that. He's the best guy.
Right on. So let me ask you this. What's wrong with the blacks?
What do you mean, what's wrong with black?
Another one of Jesse's hits. For those of you who have not encountered this man before, I'm letting you know you're about to hear some of the most unhinged, unfiltered, unrestricted white supremacist thought.
What's wrong with the black?
Well, I don't know. What are you talking about? They've given us incredible culture.
What type of incredible culture they've given you?
I mean, everything.
Like what?
Jazz,
music,
rock and roll. Yeah.
Oh, and what else?
Sports?
What?
Sports?
And what else?
Entertainment.
Okay, so they can dance.
They can dance from 73. Thank you for the 5. Get the sub.
And they can sing.
Yeah, America lets them do that, but they don't give them anything else.
And why do we need to give them anything?
What do you mean?
What else should we give them?
What are you trying to get me to do right now? I'm not going to tell you, dude. Jesse, what are you doing? Listen, I'm not a... What do you think? I'm a political scientist, sociologist here. Ask me what's wrong with the blacks? You tell me what's wrong with the black. You're the guy that you go on TV, right, or on the internet. You're like, I'm.
Does this guy unironically not realize he's a black man? He says he's an Oreo. One of his racist ass fans sent him a cotton picking bag, which he posed with once, famously. saying that things were better when he was a sharecropper. It's not even a joke. He posed with a bag used for picking cotton. That is a real thing that he says all the time.
I'm black, and I think that black people stink, right? Or suck.
No, I say I'm black and I'm slow.
You're slow?
Yeah.
And then there are white guys that watch it and they're like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A friend gave me this cotton picking sack. Proud of my hashtag roots, hashtag childhood, hashtag proud of my picking, hashtag Jesse Unchained, hashtag free at last. Amazing.
That hear you say that, and it feels so good for them, but not in a wrong way.
What do you mean?
You're criticizing, like I criticize Jews all the time, right? Like I think that it's wrong that we're like at war with what is the like this? It's a nightmare, this whole thing, right? I'm critical of it, right? But I have a right to be because I'm Jewish, right?
Right.
So if you are critical of black people, it's in the same way because you.
No joke here. Does he actually have some sort of learning disability? I'm talking about Adam. Yes.
You're a black man in America, right? But you don't think that they're.
The name of this segment is What's Wrong with the Blacks? The name of the next segment is Can Jesse Laugh at a Jewish Joke?
You don't think that they're like a little bit like they're not like it's like when Chris Rock has that joke. There are two types of black people. There's black people and then the N-word, right? Like a black guy laughs at that because he has like a cultural understanding of it. But then there have to be white guys that are like, hell yeah, dude. That's what I've been saying, dude. But it's not the same type of processing of it.
But what way?
Right?
I don't understand that.
Why?
I don't.
Because you know about your I know about my
But I don't know what you mean by that, though.
Oh, that I think that.
Do you want to help fight stupidity and potentially make Donald Jehoshaphat Trump very angry? Here's what you're going to do. You are going to go to Google and type in Gulf of Mexico. As you can see, Gulf of America popped up. That's where the fighting stupidity comes in. See these three little dots over here? You are going to click on those. This little drop-down bar is going to pop up and you are going to select Send Feedback. Then what you're going to want to do is select Inaccurate Content. It's going to ask you for some details, so go ahead and type out the correct name for this body of water is the Gulf of Mexico. Because despite Donald Jehoshaphat Trump's executive order, it is still the Gulf of Mexico. You are going to press Submit, and they will thank you for your feedback. then Google will send you an email thanking you for submitting your feedback on the Gulf of Mexico. Hopefully, this will get enough reports that we will be able to override the system and make it change it back to the Gulf of Mexico to get under Donald Jehoshaphat Trump's stupid orange skin.
People
so let's say if Chris Rock said that, and I laugh and other black people laugh.
It's not on Chris Rock. It's not on Chris Rock to censor himself.
If Chris Rock made a joke like that, and I'm sitting there, it's funny, and there are white people in the same audience, and they laugh about it too, why are the laughers different? They're laughing at a joke.
I'm saying, if you're saying that black people are no good, right? You're saying it in a different way, and someone that thinks that without the same understanding as you, right? I'm not even saying you're right. You shouldn't snitch too. You're a snitch. You shouldn't do it, dude.
What do you mean?
Because Adam has laws, to be honest. Yes, dude. No one will ever remain the same after being bested by an intellectual giant like Jesse Lee Peterson.
Say whatever you want to say.
Oh, let me ask you this. Because of time.
Yeah.
So if I went to one of your shows.
This is so embarrassing. This whole thing has been embarrassing, but I feel like I really like you as a guy.
Let me ask.
Yeah.
Ask.
Go ahead.
If I'm at your show and you're making jokes about the Jews, right? And
myself, kind of, yeah.
Right, and you're making jokes about the Jews, and I'm cracking up. Should I be laughing or not?
It's interesting. I've had that question. It's like, did people in the Midwest watch Woody Allen movies? Because those movies got like wide distribution, right? But it's like, who the hell wants to see that crap? I get it. I'm like, that stuff makes so much sense to me, but it's like, it's so like, I can't imagine that it would appeal to other people.
Should I be laughing if you're making Jewish jokes?
Jewish, like what sense? Like Jewish people
at one of your shows, and you're up making jokes, and they're really funny.
I'm mainly making fun of myself.
Let's say that all the Jews are laughing, they're cracking up, and I'm sitting there and I'm wondering, should I laugh or not?
It's a similar
So should I laugh?
Right?
Should I laugh?
But I guess I don't do Jewish jokes.
I thought you said you did.
I do Jewish, like self-deprecation, right? So making fun of yourself is like a self-deprecation. It's like it's an aspect of comedy that, like, a lot of Jewish guys.
But let me ask, because of time, I got to keep moving here. If you
move along.
Making Jewish jokes in an audience full of Jews.
What kind of Jewish joke? But I'm not. That's not what I said. I make fun of myself.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
Which is a Jew-y thing to do.
So if you make a Jew-y joke,
I'm not like,
if you make a Jew-y joke, should I laugh in a Jewish audience?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this: you have a show called. You have a show called. You host a show.
Did I answer your question? Are you moving on?
Oh, go ahead.
You could have, Jesse. You could have pressed me on that. I was vulnerable. You had me on the ropes right there, and then you moved on.
But I'm not trying to have you on a rope.
You know what you did? You turned the other cheek, much like this guy from Nazareth.
So let me ask: should I?
Yes.
If I'm in the audience and you're making a bunch of Jewish jokes,
what? You keep saying Jewish. I mean, the main Jewish joke is my face that people have to look at.
And should I laugh?
I mean, if you think that my nose is how revolting I look is funny, absolutely laugh.
Well, how about if you say, I have a Jewish...
What is a Jewish joke? Can you explain what that is?
I don't know. You're the comedian.
You keep saying Jewish jokes. I just don't understand what you mean.
But I thought you said that you made Jewish jokes.
I said that I do self-deprecation.
Okay, I got you now. I'll have you now.
Okay,
let me ask you, and give me a quick answer because of time. If
no, I don't want to stop talking to you. We got another hour, baby.
So let me ask, if you should...
Or some chatters are upset about what's happening to their brains as they're watching this, not realizing that this is one of the only formats where you can get CTE from a visual medium like this. And I'm actually helping you understand and transition into the future Trump leadership by delivering to you CTE directly from this visual medium.
Could you please tell me a Jewish joke so I can understand what you mean?
Jews love money.
Is that a joke? What are you talking about? That's a joke?
He loved that one. That was, wow, he really popped off with that one, dude.
Should I laugh about that? If you made that joke, and I'm
Should
in
you
the audience,
laugh about Jews love money?
What?
Tell me a Jewish joke. Listen, you're a
okay, Adam, he just did. You got bested. He brought out the big guns. That's the best you're gonna get. What do you mean? In his mind, that was the joke. he popped off on that one. That's the best it's gonna get from Jesse Lee Peterson.
free speech conservative. I'm not sensitive. I'm a comedian.
Right.
I believe in the First Amendment. So just tell me you have to know one.
I just told you one. You didn't say it was funny.
Jews love money is not, it didn't have the structure of a joke. It didn't have a setup. It didn't have a punchline.
You need to have a high IQ to get this kind of humor.
Jews have a big nose.
Jesse, you're funny. I believe in you. Okay?
I'm back-to-back bangers from Jesse. See? Adam's too busy trying to get an own here. That he's just not, he's missing the
All right. Pretty good. Sorry I'm late. Oh, yeah. I was out. I was just out shoveling finally. I won't bother to do it until No. I'm an old man. I need to take a rest. No, I'm fine. Good. I'm glad you reminded me of DMZ. I actually totally. Night. No. I'm good for. All right, just give me a minute. I gotta get my shit together here. Oh, so you didn't get to go home early, I assume. It wasn't that bad, right? Or did you? Yeah. Yeah. They make it sound like it's gonna be, huge. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it is, but not today. Yeah, totally. What we got here? Yep. Okay. Yeah, I mean, really. I mean, Rachel actually had a work from home day today because school, kind of panicked. Yeah. Nope. Why not? Yeah. Yeah, 3 inches total. All right, I'm good to go. God. Yeah. where you live in fear 24 hours a day. Yeah. Yeah, where you live in fear 24 hours a day. Mazra. Check, check. Check, 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 check. No echo. I'm not getting my own voice back to myself very, very well tonight, though. For some reason, that's probably on my end. Yeah, it's on me. Yeah. Check, check, check. Yeah. It's not bad. Check, check, check. Check, check. You know how I am with these things. Check, 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 check. Whatever. I don't want to start pressing buttons in the dark because I'll fuck something up, so I'll just let it ride. Come on. I wonder if it is in DM2. Could it be DMZ too? That it's weird. Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
Welcome to Al Mazrah. Explore, secure intel, and loot to gain access.
Okay.
Enemy threat is high,
See
so
where we're
expect
at.
contact.
Okay. Kind of close to the embassy. Ooh, look. Well, I would like to do a shop and get some plates. Embassy, yes. Oh wait, is it? Wait. No, that's a weapon. Destroy supplies.
Got some loot here.
Oh right, right. Yeah. Let's do it. Get some plates. Can't do anything without plates in this game. Oh, alright. Lots of plates. You know what? This is weird. Yeah, like I'm hearing your voice, but I'm not hearing our footsteps, or I didn't hear you like shooting. So there's an issue for me. What the hell is going on here? Right. Why would that be?
Hostile UAV in the area.
All right, give me. I'm inside this building. Yeah, I'm gonna unplug, so I'm gonna be gone for a second.
Effective fire.
Are you there? Wow. So that's what happened when I just fucking... No. Oh, wait. Yeah. Yeah, it's faint though. Okay, I'm turning it up now. Okay, I can hear now. Okay. Oh, dude, that sucked. I'm so sorry. Oh, that was on me, man. Fucking A. Give me a break. players in the first fucking minute of the game. Ah. All right. God damn it. Sorry. Same thing, price again, same setup. All right, I'm ready. God. Probably like, what are those guys just doing there laying on the ground like idiots? Did you even hear them coming? Or they just were on you? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Of course, we were by a shop where people try to get to the shop, so maybe that's all they were doing. Oh, look. Idiots. Oh, God. Well, at least they didn't. Well, they got money from us. That's all they got. Took my pride. Yeah, I'm ready. Um, did you hear more about it, or I think you mentioned it before, right? Yeah. I didn't see the video, I don't think. I think you just might have mentioned it to me. But that's, you know, yeah, I mean, it could be cool, whatever. I mean, I like the game. If they could improve it, maybe make it a little less painful, I'd like it more. Hmm. Well, well, they do have that though. They have crafting stuff, but we gotta work towards that. You know what I mean? Like we need to extract with XYZ stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it needs to be a little... Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's kind of weird they scrap the game and then they go, wait. No, let's make a number 2. What? We're not going to update it, but we're
Exploring,
going to make a number 2.
securing intel will open access to missions and targets. Expect resistance from local forces and watch for other operators in the AO.
Alright. There's a shop close by. I marked a shop. There's a shop. Uh-oh, already? I brought... No.
Make an effective fire!
I got 2 shots. Jesus fucking Christ. Are you down? Fucker. Alright. Here come to you. I'm coming.
Don't shoot me! Sniper's got us sighted.
Yeah, it's a fucking hornet's fucking nest. Fuck.
Don't worry, mate. We're not done yet.
Yeah.
Armor here.
Probably done. I'm probably done.
Ultra One activity.
Take an effective fire.
I'm running away, dude. I gotta get the fuck out of here. Can you get out of here? Just fucking running away like a chicken shit. They are everywhere. Everywhere. All that lucky.
Ultra One, enemy threat is moderate near your location.
Enemy fighter here. Taking fire.
You guys dropping anything? Thank you.
Taking effective fire.
Ultra One,
Really?
enemy UAV is in the airspace.
Alright. For a shop that's so close. Oh, it's right here. The shop's right here. All right. Uh-oh. Wow. The bots drive cars. I didn't realize that. Did you bring money for plates?
Enemy operator secured
Yeah, you
weapons
did.
case.
Okay.
Tracking their location on your
Yeah, I'm at the shop. Did you already get the plates? All right. All right, let me look at the map real quick. Oh, we're in some kind of shit zone. There's a red thing around us. I don't know why I'm having such a problem finding the... Oh, there's the embassy. All right, there's the embassy. It's quite a ways away. I don't know what you want to do. Do you feel like it? Not when I was looking at it. Let's get in this vehicle, eh? Sure, I'll drive. Map it out. Uh-oh, another car over there. I think I'm gonna wait for those guys to get out of there. Okay.
Taking rounds.
Guys shooting at us. To the right.
Ultra One, enemy threat appears low in your area.
Moving here.
I don't see a road, so I was like, where's the road? Alright, so now. Okay. Oh hell, I'm in the fucking chemist. Shit, we're in that chemist zone. We're in the radiation. Yeah, I gotta get out of here. Shit, dude.
Ultra One, enemy threat is monitored.
Ah, fuck me. We gotta get out. Get out. Okay, we're fucked. We're fucked. So,
It's nothing.
I'm self-reviving.
Bollocks!
Ultra One, a squad mate is down.
Damn it, I'm dead.
Taking effective fire.
Get to cover!
That's gas. Wow, there's days when I think like that. Is that the worst game we ever played? It's close. It's probably in the top 10. It's in the top 10. No. We immediately got ambushed in the first game by players when I was just trying to check my volume. And then the second game, fucking ambushed right away by a bunch of bots on our way to the shop, and then get in a car and drive right into the radiation.
Hey, we've had worse. No, I think we've had worse games.
Okay. Well, I'm assuming you're done for the night?
Yeah, I think I should chill for the night.
All right.
But there was something I was gonna say or talk to you about, but I completely forgot. Well, I'll try to remember it for.
All right.
But what do you got? You gonna be on tomorrow? It's Thursday.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's it's wine night. How's Rachel feeling?
But that, she's recovered for
Good.
sure.
Good.
Now, but I have like my friend Rich, he just got over the flu, and then my brother just said that he has the flu today. He was all like shivery and cold. He said it's going around, man. It's out there. It's out. If it's not like there's two different kinds of flu right now. I mean, there's like the stomach flu one, and then the norovirus, and then there's the regular, just like got the flu, feel sick, got a cold flu.
I took the flu shot forever ago.
Yeah, me too.
They need to have a second
hopefully
flu shot.
Yeah. Great. Anyway, yeah, I'll be on before whatever.
Well, yeah, let me know. Let me know. I'll be up and around. So have a great evening. Glad Rachel's starting to feel better. But just yeah.
All right, we'll do. Have a good night.
Talk to you later.